So after another jam-packed championship weekend, we've got loads to discuss today. Let's jump into it all. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel and to what should be quite the interesting video really. We had quite a few upsets, twists and turns going on this weekend in the championship. All will be discussed today. Of course, we were supposed to be having another game going on tonight, which has since been cancelled. So loads to dive into. As always, make sure to get your thoughts on all the weekend's action in the comments down below. And before we jump into anything, let's take a look at the updated standings in the Prediction League. Starting out with the main Prediction League, and we have a new leader at the top. Elliot Hook storms to the top place, picking up 11 points in game week 22. Absolutely massive game week there, going top with 189 points. I'm just sort of consolidating my place in 6th place at the moment. I had a reasonable game week, picking up 6 points. In League 1, things aren't as tight as ever, but some big scorelines going on in League 1 as well. Patrick Raybould absolutely storming his way up into League 1, picking up 12 points himself this game week. And then in League 2, only 10 points separates the top from bottom at the moment. So yeah, come Friday, make sure to get yourselves involved in the Prediction League, and with a few good game weeks, you can absolutely fly up the Prediction League. But guys, without any further ado, let's hop into talking about these matches. So starting out with Saturday's lunchtime kickoff, we had Huddersfield drawing 1 apiece with Coventry. I think quite a few of you guys had this one down as a draw. I had it down as a Coventry win, and I mean, they certainly had the chances to go on and win this game. Huddersfield had their only real moment of quality in the first half, and it was quite a nicely worked goal, to be honest with you. Toffolo getting high down that left hand side, cuts the ball back, and then a nice finish from Ward. But from that point onwards, and even before that, Coventry had, so much going forward. They were playing with those sort of dual number 10s in Jamie Allen and Callum O'Hare. Allen especially I thought looked quite good for this one. Loads of energy provided in midfield, and you can see by the statistics to the side of me in this game just how many opportunities Coventry actually crafted out in this game. Undoubtedly, man of the match from Huddersfield's perspective was Lee Nichols. In terms of shot stopping, he was really on top of his game for this one, and had it not been for him, I think that Coventry would have had quite a few goals in this one, to be honest with you. And it's a weird one to say who leaves this one as the more frustrated side, really, because obviously Coventry get that equaliser late on, which is a great feeling, but they still have the regrets of missing some of those chances earlier on in the game, whereas Huddersfield obviously gave away that late goal, but probably quite lucky on the reflection of the full 90 minutes to actually take a point away from it. So I think that both teams will probably leave that, looking back at it, as a little bit of a missed opportunity. But in terms of actual performance levels, yeah, Coventry looked quite good for this one. Next up then, and to St Andrews, and to quite the game in the end. Birmingham 2, Cardiff 2. Now Cardiff have made quite the name for themselves so far this season as the sort of second half specialists, but along with that territory comes with them letting themselves down in the first half more often than not. I think that the defensive issues are becoming quite the problem now. It's only 1 clean sheet so far this season for Cardiff, and the worst record of any other championship club, which is quite the worry. And how easily they were picked off on a couple of counter-attacks in that first half. First goal comes from an actual Cardiff corner. Sarkic claims the ball really well. Great distribution into McGree, and then Deeney with the nutmeg and finish makes it 1. They then get that second just before half-time, and Birmingham are looking in sort of cruise control, really. But credit once again to Cardiff and to the little tweaks that Morrison made in the second half. Made a triple substitution, which clearly had an impact, as a couple minutes after that, Keith Moore gets the goal to get them back in it, and then just heading into stoppage time, they get that equaliser from the set piece, where Cardiff are always going to be such a danger from. So yeah, we certainly saw a dip in performance from Birmingham in that second half, but the tweaks that Morrison made obviously came in clutch at the end. In terms of the actual stylistic change that we've seen since Morrison has come in, I thought that was obvious in the second half as well, just by how much of the ball we actually saw Cardiff having, a characteristic which wasn't all too familiar under previous regimes there, I think it's fair to say. So yeah, good second half comeback from Cardiff there, albeit we need to start seeing it from, the start if they are going to start climbing the table with wins sooner rather than later. Next up then to Bournemouth up against Blackburn, and what a result this was for Tony Mowbray's men. 4 wins on the bounce, 4 clean sheets on the bounce, but I think this being the most impressive of the lot. This was an absolute absolutely perfect away performance, and especially considering some of the players that they were missing for this game, yeah, real credit to Blackburn and Tony Mowbray for this one. First goal comes from the Ben Pearson own goal. Brereton's unlucky not to get the finish himself, and obviously comes off the bar, ends up hitting Pearson with him not knowing all too much about it. But for large spells of this game, you know, Blackburn had to withstand the pressure that Bournemouth were putting on them. Bournemouth had several great chances to level this one up with the scoreline at 1-0, but is Blackburn's defence a little bit underrated? I think it might be. I think that when you look on the face surface of things and see that they've conceded 27 goals so far this season, you'd think that, okay, they're pretty average in that regard. But if we were to just discount that one sort of anomaly of a match that they had against Fulham when they conceded 7 goals in that game, you know, had a man sent off, you know, had to play a lot of that game down to 10 men, and Fulham can do that to any side in the league. If we were to discount that game, then Blackburn so far this season have on average conceded less than a goal a game, which is really quite promising when you take into consideration just how many goals they've been scoring so far this season, as many as Bournemouth have so far. Ainsley Pears, I thought, had a really good game for this one. Came in with a massive save from Dom Solanke when they were 1-0 up, and Van Heck gets the second. He was also absolutely terrific, as well as Joe Rothwell in the middle as well. So yeah, that really sort of solidifies Blackburn's place in the top 6 for the time being. For Bournemouth, on the other hand, makes things a lot more interesting when it comes to the race for automatic promotion now, with West Brom just 3 points behind them. Next up then to Pride Park, and we had Derby beating Blackpool by 1-0. I had this one down to 1-0 Derby in this game as well. I had the feeling this would be a fairly low scoring game, not all too much action in the final third, and in the end that's kind of what transpired in this one. Another game where Blackpool have ultimately ended up looking a little bit blunt, and probably one of the bluntest performances that we've seen of this Blackpool side on this recent sort of winless run. It's now 7 without a win for Blackpool, their 4th consecutive game when they failed to hit the back of the net as well. And yeah, I don't think that any Blackpool fans will be hitting panic buttons, you know, just yet or anything like that. There is, you know, still quite a sizable gap between themselves and the bottom 3, but a very interesting game is coming up next for Blackpool as they face Peterborough at Bloomfield Road, and you know, if there was ever a game to get back to winning ways, it would be that one, considering where Peterborough currently are in the table. But great win for Derby considering the circumstances of this one. Luke Plange with the goal as well, looked like an absolutely great moment on his full debut for the club. Could Maxwell have done better with the goal? Potentially. I didn't think he had a great game last time out against Luton either, but yeah, Blackpool missing the formula at the moment, but good win there for Derby. Next up then to Hull up against Bristol City. Late drama in this one. It's usually Bristol City on the wrong end of a late goal, but on the right end of it this time, with Matty James popping up with the last minute equaliser. First off, seemed to be Hull who edged this one. Lovely goal by Longman, just bends it in. Bentley gets the slightest of touches on it, but can't keep it out, and yeah, brilliant curling shot into the back of the net. Hull had that probably deservedly going into half time. Second half there was a little bit of a flip of the script. Hull didn't create as much in the final third. Semenyo gets Bristol City back into it. Unlucky not to score the first one, which comes in off the post, but nice bit of composure about him to follow it up with the rebound. Hull do re-establish their lead though, and from that point onwards would have been probably quite disappointed with how the last sort of 10 minutes of this match went. But from another one of those set piece scenarios, Hull actually cleared the first ball. Masengo throws the second one in, and then on the sort of second phase of play of that ball going in, Matty James pops up with the equaliser, hits it in at the goalkeeper's near post, but brilliant strike from outside the box, keeps it low and hard. And Bristol City slowly starting to put together a little bit of consistency. Just one loss in their last 4 matches now, unbeaten in their last 2. I think small steps that are being made by Bristol City at the moment, and in terms of Hull, disappointing that they ultimately didn't go on and win this game, but is another game that they go unbeaten in the league as well. Next up then to Kenilworth Road, and to quite the dramatic game in the end. Luton playing out a 1-1 draw with Fulham. Now, if you watched the preview video coming into the weekend, I really thought that this would be the weekend where both Fulham and Bournemouth got back to winning ways and they started to pull out, you know, once again away from the chasing pack. But what we've got instead is both of them ultimately dropping points, and that gap between automatic and the rest of the chasing pack started to squeeze in a little bit closer. Obviously, Fulham still have that 5-point lead established over West Brom, but it is now, you know, 4 consecutive draws for Fulham, and I think in those draws we've had quite the variance of sort of performance levels. I thought that against Bournemouth they looked quite good. In this one, similar to how they looked when they went away to Preston, just looked a little bit jaded in the end, and you know, Luton certainly capitalised on that. It was Mitrovic back within the goals to put Fulham 1-0 up, but Luton deservedly so getting back into it. And for the second half, Luton, you know, kept up their intensity, and a few controversial decisions were made. I think it's fair to say a few penalty appeals waved away for both sides in this one. I don't think that the referee was the most popular man in the stadium come full time. But a good point there for Luton, you have to say, who have been such a sort of varying side when it comes to their performances so far this season. I really didn't know what to expect coming into this one, but yeah, good point for them in the end. Fulham need to find the winning formula again, same with Bournemouth. It does make for a much more interesting league though when the top two start to drop points like they have done recently. Next up then though, and to a huge result at the bottom of the Championship, we had Peterborough beating Millwall by 2-1. Millwall really crashing down to earth after potentially one of their best performances last weekend against Birmingham, and I mean they started this game off in decent fashion. A nice little bit of link up between Wallace and Bradshaw, who puts Millwall 1-0 up, but from that point onwards it's, you know, Peterborough who absolutely go on to dominate this game. We've seen this quite a bit with Peterborough lately though, where they've, you know, dominated matches, they've created plenty of chances, but ultimately haven't had that quality in the final third to get anything over the line. You know, before this game they were without a win in their last 7 games. Hitting the back of the net had started to become a real issue for them, but second half Clark Harris's introduction makes such the difference, involved in both the goals. I thought from Millwall's perspective, each of the goals that they ended up giving away were quite poor, to be honest with you. Peterborough in general were creating some quite high quality chances in this game, but it was quite lacklustre from what we usually come to expect from this Millwall backline. But more than deserving 3 points here in this one for Peterborough. And what this does now is, I mean, first of all, it keeps them up, you know, in touching distance with those sides above them, but actually they've got really quite a decent run of games coming up now, Peterborough, where they need to use this as the platform to start to build a little bit of consistency within the league. You know, this result is pretty much meaningless if they now go on to lose their next 3 crucial matches, where they've got games against the likes of Blackpool, Reading and Birmingham all coming up. If we can see more of this from Peterborough in the not so distant future, they've got every chance of staying up. From Millwall though, really quite disappointing, like I say, especially off the back of last weekend, when I thought, you know, they finally made some ground up in terms of switching around the system a little bit, having a few tactical tweaks, but this game was just more of the same bland stuff really, wasn't it? Next up then to Deep Dell, where we had Ryan Lowe winning his first game in charge of Preston North, then 2-1 against Barnsley in the end. It was quite the interesting game of football though, to be honest with you. You know, Barnsley, despite being on the losing side of this one, certainly had their moments within this match, but I do think we got to see the first few sort of tweaks that Ryan Lowe is going to make to this North End side over the next few months. You know, it's way too early to judge him, you know, on the, you know, the few training sessions that he's probably had with this group of players so far, but the first sort of signs of promise were definitely there from this performance, albeit not everything was spot on. You know, Ali McCann playing on the right hand side was an experiment which didn't really come off in the end, and a couple of other things didn't work as well, but overall a lot more positive from North End. Really nice opening goal that we scored. I think that this is a trademark, something that we're going to see more of as Ryan Lowe continues to work with the players, but the ball being built out from the back, brilliant diverting run by Emile Rees and the link up between DJ and Alan Brown. But when Barnsley got back into it, it wasn't all too much of a surprise, because they did carry their threats throughout the afternoon in this one. You know, they hit the bar in the first half, had a couple of other moments of quality as well. So Woodrow gets them back into it, but once again from Barnsley, that sort of weak underbelly showed, and Preston obviously went on to win this one. A goal which was straight out of the, I suppose, Paul Gallagher book of tricks really, with how he scored this one. Scored a very similar goal at Deep Dell a few years ago, but nice set piece work between Ryan Ledson and DJ, who just peels off and has the free shot in the end. And I think it deserved 3 points for North End really. I think the progression that we'll make gradually under Ryan Lowe will just be that. It will be quite a gradual change that we'll see over these next few months, but disappointing from Barnsley, particularly with how they gave away the goals. Next up then to Stoke up against Middlesbrough, this one finishing as a goalless draw, and two sides who just seem to cancel each other out in this one, to be honest with you. Obviously they both play with a system where their wing backs are crucial to how they play and how they create chances, and ultimately I think that's what sort of cancelled each other out in this game, really. It was two quite similar systems going up against each other in that sense. In terms of clear-cut chances, they seem to be quite few and far between. Duncan Watmore had a decent opening for Borough but couldn't sort his feet out, and Tyrese Campbell had a similar opening for Stoke as well. But both sides amongst the lowest in terms of XG this weekend, which wasn't a surprise really, as neither side could really craft out ultimately clear-cut opportunities. But at a point, not a bad result, I don't think, in the circumstances. It's a clean sheet for both sides. There's 5 points that separate these two at the moment, but come the end of the season, I don't think there'll be all too much to separate these two. I think that both will be in the top six, and there's no doubt about that. Next up then though, and undoubtedly one of the games of the weekend, we had Nottingham Forest 4, Swansea 1. Steve Cooper with a triumphant return to Swansea in the end, and I think he and Forest played this one perfectly, and this is the time to properly put some respect on Steve Cooper's name and just the job that he's done at Nottingham Forest so far. You know, came into a side which was in total disarray at the start of the season under Chris Hughton. They looked like the worst side in the Championship. He inherited a side which was low on confidence, sat bottom of the table, and playing no sort of football compared to what we're seeing them play at the moment and lately under Cooper. And it has been quite a gradual rise up the league because there have been quite a few draws dotted in there. He's made them hard to beat, but performances like this, and if you look at the league table now with Forest just sitting 4 points off the top 6, we have to be taking Forest seriously now. He's only lost one game since going in there, Steve Cooper, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, listen, I do think that Swansea played into Forest's hands at times throughout this match. A few of the goals they conceded were particularly shabby, and from Swansea's point of view, Ben Hamer certainly didn't have his best day in this one. But it was up to Forest to take those chances. I thought their front three worked brilliantly off each other in this one. Zinkernagel, Brennan Johnson, Lewis Graben. Lewis Graben, by the way, who's been a transformed man since Steve Cooper's come in. I thought he was done at this level towards the end under Chris Hughton, but aside from that nice finish from Joel Perreault, Swansea really didn't have a lot to sing about after this one. But for Forest, things looking up. After that, we then had West Brom winning back-to-back matches and seemingly start to get a little bit of consistency behind them as they move to within 3 points of Bournemouth. It's been quite a good weekend, or past couple of weeks actually, for West Brom fans, with both the gap on Bournemouth and Fulham being closed in recent weeks. Also, with results elsewhere and the clean sheet this weekend, it does cement West Brom as having the best defensive record in the league so far this season in terms of goals conceded. What's been West Brom's issue as of late has been hitting the back of the net, and a little bit of that on show in this one, certainly with the quality of chances they created in this game. Probably should have got more than that one goal, which went on to seal the 3 points in the end, but regardless of that, nice goal in the end. A little bit of link-up play between Callum Robinson and Colin Grant. Starting to see a little bit more of that in recent weeks from West Brom. Taylor Gardner-Hickman, I thought, looked really good once again on that left-hand side as well. And you have to say, West Brom have got a decent run of fixtures coming up. I think their next 4 games are all against sides who are currently in the bottom half of the table. For Reading, on the other hand, I think they'll be nervously looking over their shoulder at the moment. They've got some quite tricky games coming up against the likes of Luton and Fulham, and sandwiched in the middle of that is a massive game against Peterborough, which, for how they're faring at the moment, could be a bit of a make or break game for both sides. But guys, there we have it. Those were all the matches that took place in the Championship over this weekend, obviously. No game tonight, which is a little bit unfortunate because I was really looking forward to this one. Sheffield United against QPR. I thought it had the potential to be one of the games of the weekend, but that'll be rearranged at a later date. And for all the matches that did take place this weekend, I want to get your guys' verdict and viewpoints on all of them. So as always, get yourself in the discussion in the comments down below. If you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stay subscribed for some regular Championship content. Apart from that though guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.